This project is about bringing together dance with human augmentation. And really the core theme that we're trying to explore is how do you awaken a feeling of oneness between humans and technology? How do you bring these two things together in a sacred, almost spiritual-like place? How do you awaken genuine emotional feelings between human and technology? Now you may be like, why would you ever want to do something like that? Bring technology into dance and things like that? Well, one of the motivating reasons comes from my research, and the other one comes from kind of my spiritual, sacred explorations through the rituals and ceremonies I do. From the perspective of my research, what I'm doing is I put people in a disorienting condition similar to what astronauts may experience, and I put these vibrotactors, these external pieces of technology on them. And the hope is that they use this technology while doing this balancing task. But it turns out it's kind of difficult to do that. This external thing feels outside of the person. So I'm asking these questions. Well, how do I emotionally make a person from their gut level feel like they're connected to this external device? That's the research side of it. But from the sacred side too, the question is, well, why does technology AI feel so external to us, and how do we bring it internal? And in these events that I do, like the Rebirth Ceremony of 2020, the Human Augmentation event, the Sacred AI event, one of the, visualizations of humans and technology is that actually technology and AI is like our baby. We're giving birth to it. And if that's the case, then we need to nurture our baby. We need to, as a society, create a way to nurture artificial intelligence and technology as it grows. So that's like, if that's the case, that's a really intimate connection. The other viewpoint is that actually technology and AI is like our sibling. Technology has existed since the beginning of Homo sapiens, in fact, even before Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, even chimpanzees. All of our ancestors are using tools, which is a form of technology. So if technology has existed since intelligence itself, the question becomes, why does it feel so external to us? Whether it's our baby or our collaborator, one idea might be that corporations or whoever's developing these things uses it as a way to exploit as opposed to explore. And so part of what we're looking at is, again, how do we bring it into this sacred space? So, okay, how do we build that subconscious connection? These are some of the things. So in this video, the first part after this will be a description of my research and research motivations. And then I'll describe this device that I have over here, this electronic device that we created, human augmentation device. I'll describe that and how it works during dance. And then I'll describe the core kind of, interesting thing that my mother and I are developing, which is how do you develop ceremony and ritual as a way to bind human and device that initially seems external, but by doing this ritualistic thing, it now feels internal. So I'll describe those elements, and that may be one of the core ingredients that the tech industry is missing. And then finally, we'll finish with a performance piece. Here I am in the Ashton Grabiel Spatial Orientation Lab. This is where I do my research on spatial disorientation. And spatial disorientation is when pilots and astronauts lose sense of which way they are oriented. Now, the way that I study this is I strap living human beings into this machine over here. Once they're inside the machine, they try to balance themselves. And that balancing is, kind of sort of like a dance in itself. And then what I do is I put these people into what I call a space flight analog condition. Sometimes I call it a 0G analog condition. And in this condition, people get very disoriented. They don't know where they are. And specifically what we're looking at is understanding, when does spatial disorientation happen? Why does spatial disorientation happen? And what can we do to prevent it? Now, in terms of prevention, one of our most recent papers that I've published is on human augmentation. So this is the idea of taking technology, putting it on the human to enhance their performance. And the type of human augmentation that we're exploring is vibrotactile feedback. So what I do is I take these little vibrators, I put it on the skin of the person, on their arm, and the further they tilt away from the balance point, the greater the vibrations that they feel. So this gives them a sense of where they are. Now what's interesting, what we published in our paper is that people are able to use this. They're able to augment or enhance their performance. So this is great, but they're not able to get back to normal. And the reason why is because they're experiencing a conflict. When they're disoriented, they can swear that they are oriented in some direction, and that's wrong. And the vibrotactiles are actually like, here's the correct place you are. And the conflict or the confusion they feel is, do they rely on their own inner senses that they've used their entire life, or do they rely on this external thing? And many people are not able to rely on these vibrotactors. And so the question that I then had is, how do you bind or connect human and devices at like a subconscious level where you feel like you've merged with the device, you've become one with it? So here's how the device works. This is all thanks to Jacob Smith, who did the programming and taught us how to connect the Arduino. So we'll have a lead dancer. In this case, the lead dancer is my mother. And if you come forward, mother, the lead dancer wears this helmet, and on the helmet, the lead dancer will have an IMU. This is a sensor that detects tilt. In this dance, my mother is just moving back and forth, and this is detecting forward and backwards motion. That information is then sent to this Arduino, and that Arduino sends out that information through the Wi-Fi. Now if you come back, mother, then all the other dancers, and in this case there's only one other dancer, it's me, will be wearing this belt, and then on the belt is another Arduino, and that Arduino through the Wi-Fi will pick up how my mother is tilting and then send that information through this wire, and this wire is connected to a vibrotactor, just a small little vibrator like you have on your cell phones. So basically, it's quite simple. My mother moves back and forth, and then I can feel her movements through two vibrations, forward and backwards, on myself. So the most important part of this project is, how do we bring a bunch of dancers together and make them really evoke genuine emotion during dance when they're connected to this device? And one of the first steps was just have the dancers feel comfortable with one another, open, have that feeling of trust and safety. So what do we do for that?
We didn't have to do much, because in our case, we are mother and son, and
That's
we did
right.
together.
That's right. Once all the dancers are feeling comfortable with one another, the next thing is, how do you get the dancers to understand what this external device is trying to communicate and how it works, and how do you get the dancers to use it without needing a lot of active thought? So the first thing that we did is that we each wore the device and just freely explored with it. We practiced moving around, tilting ourselves, and seeing how the vibrations work. In the sensory substitution literature, this type of exploration is called active sensing, and it's required to build a bond between human and device. Once we established our understanding, we did it without vision, and this way we could concentrate only on our feelings. Then we switched roles so that we could understand what the other person was sensing. Finally, we practiced across several days to feel more one with the device, where we didn't really have to actively think what exactly was happening. Once the dancers understood how the device works and they began to feel more one with it, didn't need active thought, the next question was, how do we create this feeling of true and genuine emotion and feeling of sacredness between dancer and device? For me, the feeling of sacredness and care came from the fact that I actually physically built this device myself. I helped out with a little bit of the coding and everything, and so that built a really strong bond between me and device. But the second part is really, collaboration between what my mother and I do in our home when we do these ceremonies and rituals, which is use ritual as a way to imbue sacredness in whatever we're doing and whatever we're interacting with. So, in this next clip you're going to watch, you're going to see how my mother does Vedic chanting and things like that in a puja to essentially add sacredness to this device, which feels very external to us. One of the first questions we had was, how do we take this device, which feels very external to us, and make it feel like it's one of us, add an element of sacredness to it? And as I was talking about this with my mother told me that back when she was young in her village, it was traditional for her and her family to do puja for things like dishes and tools that were newly bought and brought into the house. So, Ma, like, why would people even do this? Why do a puja for a dish or tool?
Like you said, just to create some sacredness and make it respected. It's not like you just take it something for granted and you don't have any respect for it. And then in the long run, then we created some kind of connection, bonding with that particular thing we had.
So it's cool. This is like an ancient practice, and you do this puja for these devices, and then you respect and honor them because they're going to help you through life. So the next thing was that before my mom starts the puja, I wanted her to do a mantra. And I wanted her to pick a mantra that had, I don't know, some meaning about like becoming one with things around you, maybe something related to human augmentation. So Ma, well, first of all, where did you pick this mantra from?
It is around 1,000-year-old Upanishad called, and it's called Ishavasya Upanishad.
Okay.
And that's where this mantra is coming from.
And now you'll just say each line and then give like the literal translation for what this mantra is going to mean.
Purnamadah means that is complete, and Purnamidam means this is also complete. Purnasya Purnamadaya, when we take out something from that complete, Purnameva Vashishyate, that remains complete, and then again this is complete.
So when
are perfect, are whole.
So when you say that is complete, what is that referring to?
That is referring to, you may call God, nature, or universal consciousness, whatever makes sense to you.
Yeah. So you're saying, this universal consciousness or whatever you want to call it is complete. You take a piece out of it, which is the human maybe, and the human is complete. And so the reason why this seemed interesting to me was that, this is all part of one. This doesn't diminish us. This is, we're complete together with this, and we're complete without it as well. Okay. And so now we're going to do the puja. My mom will sing the mantra, but before she does it, you have these things here. What's the parts of the puja that you do?
You first sprinkle little water that purifies it. That's how Indians believe. And then after that we just do little bit rice sprinkling, and then we put some kind of tikka, which is in this case we are going to use turmeric. And then after that we do some aarti.
Okay.
With the fire.
Okay.
Candle.
And then the files. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. You want to do it too?
Oh, thank you. But also do it to this device too. This one very fast. You can chant again.
Purnamadah
And then put the tikka stuff on this too.
Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate.
To ritualistically and emotionally connect all of us, we composed a meaningful song that evokes emotion in us using Vedic chant, and we did this in collaboration with my bestie, Elizabeth. And finally, to evoke real emotion, we created a meaningful storyline that was personal to us because storytelling leaves magic. Storytelling is one of the most powerful forms of ritual, and it can awaken genuine emotion and connection.
Our story begins with a mother and her young child. The mother is trying to teach her child how to do Havan, which is a Hindu fire ritual. I feel emotions of love and caretaking. being a mother takes my full attention, and so I cannot fully concentrate on the device.
And as a child, I feel emotions of playfulness and innocence. I don't pay attention to the vibrations from the device, and I don't care about trying to do hava.
As my child grows up, I continue to teach him about the fire ritual, and he begins to learn.
I grow stronger and more confident. Our movements become more synchronized. I understand the vibrations, but I barely feel them and mostly focus on my vision when synchronizing. As I enter into early adulthood, I began to differentiate and become more distant. I focus on my own growth. Now I neither focus on the vibrations nor the visual information to synchronize with the movements of my mother. I independently synchronize with the music.
And as a mother, I feel sad that this distance is created.
As I enter into adulthood, I create my own universe and I swirl away. I become an astronaut and have to go far, far away.
I understand that he needs to go, but I miss being a mother and taking care of him. Now that he's gone, I'm able to fully concentrate on the device.
Now I'm in outer space, alone and by myself. I become nostalgic and start to remember what my mother taught me. I create a fire, and even though I cannot talk to my mother or see her or even hear the music, I can feel her presence through the vibrations. Now, within the darkness of the abyss, I feel a real connection, and it is my sustenance through space.
I cannot see my child anymore, but I know we are connected through this device, and I can communicate my blessings through the device.
Purnameva